Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Imperial Diecast. This channel is interactive, and what that means is that every now and then I post something on the community tab of my channel you can respond to. A couple of days ago, I made a poll asking you which 118 scale diecast car I should review next, and holy moly, I never expected the poll to be this evenly spread out. You can see it received 27 votes, and for a long time they were evenly distributed, meaning the same amount of people wanted me to review a different car. But finally the Pagani Huayra pulled through, and that's why it will be the subject of this week's review. So this is what the box looks like. As you can see, this is a Motormax Platinum Collection box. So you can see here it says Platinum Collection, and then it says Motormax on the left and 118 Limited Edition on the right. And here at the front, where you can see the car, you can also see that it says Platinum Collection again down here. Age 14 plus, 118 Limited Edition, Motormax. And on the side it also says Platinum Collection again. And then if we move the box to the back, you can also see that it says, once again, unmistakably, this is the Platinum Collection. And at the bottom, there's just some legal information. So without any more further delays, let's take the model out of the box and take a look at its base. And you can see on the base that we have a really nice Pagani Huayra nameplate. And I believe this is part of that Platinum Collection box, which I believe is like their higher end line of models. I think they've only released a couple of Platinum Edition models so far. Usually it means they have painted the interior and put some extra details like that onto it. And you can also see that the sides of this box have this reflective material. But enough delays, let's take a look at the car.
The earth hungers for blood. There's a riot in us. Fate thickens the air. We know our time is near. This is a revolution. We are rising up. We are rising up. This is a revolution.
So as you might remember, about 2 weeks ago, I uploaded a review of the 124 scale Pagani Huayra, also by Motormax, in a burgundy red. And for a long time I was happy with that model, especially after I had made major improvements to its interior, which had been completely black and unpainted when I had bought it. But once it was painted, all the details Motormax had included were suddenly visible and it looked a lot better. But overall, I was still kinda disappointed, so I started looking at Motormax's 118 Huayra, and the first time I did that, which was back in 2016, there was only the red and blue Huayras you could buy. And just like the 124, their interiors were also unpainted, which was a damn shame. But then in 2017, Motormax released 2 new color options for their 118 Huayra. The first was a gloss carbon fiber look, and this particular model is so freaking rare, you cannot even find it anymore unless you get super lucky. But it was reviewed here on YouTube by Diecast, so I'll post a link in the description if you're interested in seeing the rarest Motormax Huayra in existence. And then the second color option Motormax added to their Huayra line was this champagne gold metallic that sparkles brilliantly in the sunlight. As you can see, all these little pigments sparkling. And that's the cool thing about these metallic colors. Both of these models came with painted interiors, and this champagne metallic used to retail anywhere between 35 to 45 euros for the last year or so. Then it started getting increasingly rare in Europe, to the point where on eBay I could only find American sellers, like 40 euros shipping, and import taxes. So yeah, that's when the whole fear of missing out kicked in, and when I saw this champagne-colored one on Amazon of all places for 40 euros, and they only had 2 left in stock, I bought it, even though I already had the Huayra in 124. And then like about a week later, the last one sold out on Amazon as well. The interesting thing is that this exact same spec is also made by the much more expensive GT Autos company, which is actually like a high-end version of Welly. And you can see in these pictures that they offer this exact same champagne metallic. And so over the course of this review, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to compare this Motormax, which, as I said, retails for about 35 to 40 euros, with the much more expensive GT Autos version, which used to retail for 80, but has now appreciated to, like, definitely into the triple digits. And so, if you're still on the lookout for a 118 Huayra and you're not sure which one to buy, please do continue watching this review. So, taking a look at the front of the Pagani Huayra, in 118 scale by Motormax, you can immediately tell that there are a lot of improvements here over the 124 scale Motormax version. We're going to start with the headlights. And these don't look a whole lot different actually. However, you can see that every single one of these bulbs, and there are 2 bulbs per headlight, so there's 8 of them in total, are done with more detail than on the 124 version, because the top bulbs have like a chrome surround, and they also have like a separate light inside. And the bottom ones are painted in orange because I think they are turn signals. However, the surrounds or bezels of the headlights are just matte black in color here on the Motormax. But on the GT Autos, you have carbon fiber texturing around them. Another improvement you can see on the 118 is that the centerpiece here actually says Pagani, while on the 124 Motormax it was just like a small silver oval. However, you can see that the oval-shaped centerpiece has no texture at all on this 118 Motormax, but on the GT Autos you get carbon fiber texturing on this piece as well. And here are the aerodynamic flaps of the Pagani Huayra. And even on this 118 they do not move, although they're supposed to like flip open a little bit to increase downforce at high speeds. This is possible on the GT Autos version though. And as we move further down, you can see this giant front air intake here. And all of this is kept in this sort of honeycomb pattern. this entire thing would be perforated on the GT Autos version, whereas here it's just plastic. You can see that we have the Huayra logo in the middle, and we also have LED strips on either side. But now let's check out the rest of the car. And here we are at the car's side profile. Big plus on the Motormax for including raised windows. They really add that high-end look to the exterior, because that's something you can notice from a distance, like immediately, you know? So I was very happy to see that the 118 Motormax Huayra comes with raised windows. And just judging this model by itself, it is definitely one of the best looking 118 Motormaxes out there. You can place this right next to an auto art on your display, and it wouldn't look as out of place as, for example, a windowless Burago or Maisto might. One thing that's funny is that on the Pagani Huayra, the way the doors are shaped in this diagonal slanted fashion, they actually prevent the engine bay from opening, meaning you have to open the doors first before you can lift the engine bay cover. And that is a flaw on the real $1 million Pagani Huayra as well. So much for Horacio Pagani being called the modern Leonardo da Vinci, right? And now let's take a closer look at the wheels. And you can see that these are the same rims as on the 124 scale Motormax version. So unlike the 124 Motormax Huayra, which had chrome wheels, the rims on the 118 are matte silver. And not only that, but you also get brake discs, and you get brake calipers, and the discs even have perforation on them. The tires have Pirelli P0 branding on the GT Autos, but here on the Motormax they're just normal ones. Now on the red caliper, you can see that it says Pagani. However, the brake discs do not move with the wheel, and as you can hear, this is not a particularly well-moving wheel either. What I like about the Motormax, though, is that you can actually pose the wheels in the sense that when you turn them in a certain way, they stay that way. And this allows for some really nice poses on the display. Right next to the wheel, you can see that we have the Pagani logo written on this little oval here, and that is missing on the 124 Motormax version. You can also see that this side vent here is also painted in black. This was also missing on the 124 Motormax, and I had to do that with black Sharpie myself, as you might remember in my review. And now if we take a look at the mirrors, you can again see that we have here a really nice carbon fiber texturing, although it is matte and not glossy like it's supposed to be. And as you might know, the mirrors of the Pagani Huayra are known to be shaped like a woman's eye. And they look really cool. And Motormax also made them out of rubber, which means they won't break off. Finally, we have another mesh here, and this has a hexagonal shaped grille pattern on it. And further down, we have another air intake here, although it doesn't have a mesh. And you can see that it's just the same metal body as the rest of the car. But it looks cool. And here's a look at the car's top profile. You can see that it looks pretty amazing. This center pillar on the roof has a carbon fiber texture on the GT Autos, but on the Motormax it's the same matte black as the frame of the moonroofs. You'll also notice that on this rear windshield we have the defroster lines, but there's actually supposed to be like an extra brake light etched into the rear windshield, which is missing on the Motormax. And of course, here through the window, you can see into the engine, just like on the 124 Motormax. But the difference is that on the 118, this can open up. So this brings us to the next big feature of the 118 Motormax as compared to the 124, which is that the entire engine bay is openable on this model, when before it was completely sealed. And the way to do this is actually first you need to lift the doors, which open up in this gull-wing style. And once you do that, you should be able to lift the engine bay. However, the engine bay is actually, like, the hinge is a little hard to operate on the Motormax. It's not as smooth as it's supposed to be. So let me demonstrate. You can see the opening is actually easier, but once you have it opened this way, closing it is even harder. One cool thing about the Motormax compared to the much more expensive GT Autos version, though, is that because of its strong dogleg hinges, which you can see here, the weight of the entire engine bay is supported. Like, it's not going to fall back. Whereas on the GT Autos, it will fall back. Even if you buy a brand new GT Autos, it's not going to stay up by itself. And that's why GT Autos provides you with a little, like, extremely thin sort of hood prop or pin, which is placed somewhere over here. And then you need to, like, prop that up. And it can barely hold the weight of the engine bay. But that's the kind of stuff you don't have to worry about on this Motormax. So these things right here are actually the luggage containers of the Pagani Huayra, because you'll notice it's the kind of hypercar that doesn't have any space to put luggage, neither on the back or on the front, because this part right here, when it opens, is actually, there's just enough space for some airflow from the radiator, so that the airflow can flow through these panels right here, at least the gaps behind them. So there's no space here, there's no space back there, and so this is literally the only space you get. These side trunks or luggage boxes on the GT Autos have a lot more detail in the sense that the carbon fiber covers the side as well, and not just the top, and that it is glossy, as you can see to the right of this picture. And you can also see that they have hinges, which means that on the GT Autos version, they are actually openable, whereas on this Motormax, they cannot be opened. So now that we have Motormax's 118 scale Pagani Huayra with an openable engine bay, we get to admire the 6-liter twin-turbo AMG V12 in all its glory. But the biggest difference here is that when Motormax released the red and the blue Pagani Huayra, this engine was completely black and unpainted. But here on the Motormax Platinum Collection, they actually did paint the engine and made it gold and everything. And the crossbars in silver, so this is a 720 horsepower producing beast, accelerating the car from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just over 3 seconds, and with a top speed of 360 kilometers per hour, which has been updated over the years, depending on the spec. And of course, the engine of the 118 GT Autos has even more detail than this, but otherwise, with just a couple of extra hinges or like wheel axles missing, everything else is still here, and you can still see the exhaust pipes leading outside, a little bit at least. On the GT Autos version, those are, I think, painted in a sort of turquoise blue. And so I'm pretty happy for the price that I'm paying. I get a lot of detail here. And now as we check out the back of the 118 scale Pagani Huayra by Motormax, again you're going to notice several improvements over the 124. But first the downsides. The rear grills are perforated on the GT Autos, and you can even see parts of the engine through them, which is really cool. Unfortunately on the Motormax that's not possible. The taillights have red rims and silver circles on the GT Autos. Here on the Motormax, they've got red rims, but the center is transparent. Interesting, however, is that this is a difference on the champagne version of the Motormax, because on the red and on the blue versions, which were released a couple of years earlier, the center part was not transparent, and the entire taillight was in red, like every single one of the 3 taillights. Now, another improvement over the 124 is that we actually have a red stoplight, Formula 1 style, which was, I think, black on the 124, if I remember correctly. In any case, this stoplight is just painted on, but on the GT Autos it's a separate piece. And above it you can see that we have Pagani and Pagani saying, like 2 times, one on the license plate and the other one on another oval plaque above it. And then we have the quad exhaust, which always looks amazing. And of course we have the Huayra branding right next to the Pagani logos. Another way you can tell this is a Motormax is by these atrocious panel gaps, like right here, which you'd have to press together to sort of make it a little bit better. But you can see, for example, that on the other side it looks a lot better. So this is a flaw of my particular model, and may not be the case with every Motormax. But even here you can see that we have a big panel gap between the door and the car body. Whereas over here, it's a little bit better. And now let's check out the interior, shall we? So again, we gotta open up these gullwing style doors, which I always like doing. And they stay up on this Motormax, which is cool. And you can see that if you display the car like this, it looks really amazing. But yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's check out the passenger side first. And you can see that the painted interior definitely is a big improvement over the red and blue. We're going to start with the door sill branding here, which says Pagani. And the interior is really where a good chunk of your extra money goes into when purchasing that GT Autos model. On first glance, the interior looks pretty similar, but then you realize all the subtle differences that separate a Motormax from a high-end brand like GT Autos. Like, you can see that Motormax has all the details in place, but it's the shape of the details that matters. Here on the Motormax, the dashboard is completely flat, but on the GT Autos, the first thing you'll notice is how the edge of the dashboard curves upward. The glove compartment bulges outward. It has a more realistic carbon fiber pattern. And the cubicle next to it has actual depth, while here it's all just flat. The center console is also more detailed, mostly in the sense that it has the right shape, like protrusions and depth, while on the Motormax it may have the same layout, but is very flat. You can also notice how we have a realistic door sill with the raised seal in the middle, separating the carbon fiber tub outside from the painted interior, while here on the Motormax they just did not bother with that. To the extreme right of this image, you can also see the wheel well cover, while on the Motormax it just doesn't exist. More differences are on the driver's side, where you have the Pagani logo on the steering wheel while it's missing on the Motormax. But more importantly, notice that the floor pedals are a separate piece made out of high-quality chrome, while here on the Motormax it's just small painted bumps in the footwell. You also get cloth seatbelts with photo-etched buckles, which are completely missing on the Motormax, while, for example, a Burago or Maisto would have at least provided you with plastic seatbelts. And the headliner of the doors is unpainted and ugly, but you can paint this in black to make it look better. And of course, the gauge cluster having more details, just like the handbrake that sticks out more. But let's not completely trash the interior detailing of this Motormax by comparing it to high-end brands. In the budget class, this interior right here is actually really good. It's definitely the best Motormax interior out there, and a big improvement over the interior of the red and blue Motormax Huayras, which looked like this. Yep, that's right. They were completely unpainted. Like, not even the trim on the air vents was painted silver. Nothing was. I also like how there's a Pagani badge behind the seats, and you even have speakers behind the seats. The steering wheel does correspond to the front wheels moving, which is nice. You can see the sound system as well on the door insert. So there's definitely some detail on this interior, which I like. And now if we take a look at the bottom of the vehicle, You can see that there really isn't a whole lot of detail here. I mean, we have like the legal information, where it basically says Motormax Toy Factory and the address Pagani Huayra used under license, made in China. You got some NACA ducts here to help channel the air. And that's about it. Well, looks like you've finally reached the end of this rather lengthy review, but I just had to show you all the details of this amazing $1 million Pagani. Be sure to check out my other reviews and subscribe if you like this channel, and I'll see you in the next review. This is Imperial Diecast, signing out.